we're looking at the book of Judges, and we're still with our good friend Gideon. Gideon has come a long ways. Remember, this was the guy that was hiding. He was scared. The Midianites had him in a state of fear. And he was complaining, like, well, I hear all this stuff about miracles of old, and we've never seen any of these miracles, and we heard about them from our fathers telling us these stories back in the day, but I haven't seen any with my own eyes. And he's down there in the wine press threshing wheat down in the lowland in the valley when he should be up in the mountain, but he don't want to go up there because he don't want to be seen because he's afraid. Well, God comes to him and tells him, you are a mighty man of valor. And God sees what's in Gideon that Gideon can't even see. Well, we went through those stories in the last couple of chapters, and we see now Gideon has finally got the understanding of what God actually sees in him. And he's now starting to bring out some of the gifts and some of the qualities that God had already put in Gideon, that Gideon didn't even recognize. You know, it's kind of like on Christmas when you got a kid and you got presents under the tree, gifts for that child. Now, let me tell you something. If there's a gift under the tree for a child, that child is ripping through all them packages looking for that name, especially I'm talking about that 7, 8, 9-year-old child. They're not leaving any gifts unopened or unwrapped, undiscovered. They're going to search through it and they'll find your gift and everything. Well, this one's got your name, but they're still looking for what? All of their gifts, because they want to unwrap all the gifts that have their name on it. Well, let me tell you, you and I still have gifts that God has given to us that we have not unwrapped. They're still there. And God is telling us, trying to get us, there's certain places you got to go because that's where the gift is. And you're never going to discover this particular talent about yourself until you get to the place where the gift is. Sometimes the place where the gift is not a pleasant place. But the gift is always great. It's always going to be a good thing. And whether it's a gift of gratitude, a gift of thankfulness, a gift of courage, a gift of wisdom, a gift of whatever talent God has given you, it's your gift. It's got your name on it, and it's from God. And that's what our friend Gideon here had to learn. Gideon had a lot of things that God has given to him that he had not opened. He did not know he was a great warrior. I'm not fighting Midian. Are you kidding me? You know how he was not a man of great courage. But God said, yeah, you are a man of courage. You just don't know it. I've already given you that gift. You just haven't opened it yet. So when we get here to this 8th chapter, we're going to see once again Gideon utilizing the gifts of God. But what we're also going to see is some more of the good. We're also going to see some more bad. And we're going to see some more ugly. Y'all remember that old Western, the good, the bad, and the ugly? Well, that's what we're going to see right here. We're going to see some good, we're going to see some bad, and we're going to see some ugly. Because even though God is utilizing Gideon, they're still in this stage where they have a lot of the cultural stuff that they have been living in for years and for decades that's still influencing their decision making. All right, let's go ahead and get into the reading here. This is Judges chapter 8. Let's take a listen.
Chapter 8. And the men of Ephraim said unto him,
Why hast thou served us thus, that thou calledst us not when thou wentest to fight with the Midianites?
And they did chide with him sharply. And he said unto them,
What have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeeb. And what was I able to do in comparison of you?
Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. And Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint yet pursuing them. And he said unto the men of Succoth,
Give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me. for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian.
And the princes of Succoth said,
Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thine army?
And Gideon said,
Therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into mine hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars.
And he went up thence to Penuel, and spake unto them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered him. And he spake also unto the men of Penuel, saying,
When I come again in peace, I will break down this tower.
Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their host with them, about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the host of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword. And Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them, and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. And Gideon the son of Joash returned from battle before the sun was up, and caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him. And he described unto him the princes of Succoth, and the elders thereof, even 17 men. And he came unto the men of Succoth, and said,
Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom ye did upbraid me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that are weary?
And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them he took the men of Succoth. And he beat down the tower of Penuel, and slew the men of the city. Then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna,
What manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor?
And they answered,
As thou art, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king.
And he said,
They were my brethren, even the sons of my mother. As the Lord liveth, if ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you.
And he said unto Jether his firstborn,
Up, and slay them.
But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said,
Rise thou, and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength.
And Gideon arose, and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon,
Rule thou over us, both thou and thy son, and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian.
And Gideon said unto them,
I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you.
And Gideon said unto them,
I would desire a request of you, that ye would give me every man the earrings of his prey.
for they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered,
We will willingly give them.
And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks. And Gideon made an ephod thereof, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah, and all Israel went thither a-whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. And Jerubbaal the son of Joash went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. And Gideon the son of Joash died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again, and went a-whoring after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their god. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side, neither shewed their kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shewed unto Israel. Chapter 8.
All
And
right.
the men of Ephraim said unto
Stop
him,
that.
Why hast thou served?
All right, so we thank God for this this chapter here, chapter 8. When we look at this,
Good morning.
good morning, Calvin. How are you, sir?
Calvin. I'm okay. I'm just a little bit under the weather.
Oh, okay.
Where are we at?
We're in Gideon chapter 8.
Judges.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Judges. I'm sorry, Gideon. Judges chapter 8.
Oh, Judges?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And good to see Gabrielle as well. All right, so now let's take a look at this. Now, as we had stated in our preliminary remarks, that this particular chapter has a lot of good in it. It also has a lot of bad in it. And it has a lot of ugly in it. And we're going to try to point this out. And the reason why I want to make sure that I point this out, because I don't care what you think you have been able to achieve in the name of the Lord. I guarantee you a couple of things. In your life right now, there's some good. But I can guarantee you there's some bad. And I can guarantee you there's some ugly. It's there. Now, whether you admit it, acknowledge it, or agree with it, and you can even disagree. But God knows. And so we're going to look at this mighty man of valor. That's what God called Gideon. But remember, when he called Gideon, Gideon was a what kind of person? Coward. He was afraid. All right? And eventually God allowed him to get to a place where he was able to open up that gift that God gave him, where he recognized, God is with me. I can get victory. And he was no longer afraid. But that doesn't mean that initially, from the very beginning, he walked in fear. He's not walking in fear now. All right? But he's still walking in some of the cultural problems of that day, which we will point out. Just like we got cultural issues today. Things that we just don't even, think too much about, because that's the way our society works. That don't mean just because our society works that way, that that's a good thing. Some of the things in our culture are good. A lot of things in our culture are bad. And some of the things in our culture are just downright ugly. And we'll try to point those out when we go through this. So let's look at this. And so as chapter 8 points out, starts off, and it uses the word and I always try to tell you that when you start a chapter and you see the word and, you got to go back a chapter or two or more sometimes to get the full flavor of what this chapter is talking about. Well, we've already done that study, so we're not going to go and rehash all of that. And so it says, and the men of Ephraim said unto him, the him is Gideon. And so the men of Ephraim, all of a sudden, they got something to say. Let's see what they got to say. Why hast thou served us thus? Why did you treat us like this? That thou callest us not when thou wentest to fight with the Midianites, and they did not, and they did chide with him sharply. All right, let's take a look at this. Now the Ephraimites, remember, Ephraim is a tribe that came out of Joseph. Gideon is from the tribe of Manasseh, which is that other tribe, that brother tribe. Once again, both of those tribes came out of Joseph. And if you remember, when God called Gideon to tell him to go fight, what was one of the things that God told him to do? Get rid of some of these folks you got. All the folks that were afraid, send them home. All the folks that didn't go into the brook and drank the water a certain way, send them home. So God only used 300. And so now Ephraim is like, look, y'all only went down there with 300 men. Why didn't you call us? We could have went with you. Because the battle was not going to be won because we had mighty numbers. The battle was going to be won because God fought the battle for us. So we didn't need your help, Ephraim. That's why we didn't call on you. And God didn't tell us to call on you. All right? So Gideon then responds to them. And look what he says in verse 2. And he said unto them, what have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes in Ephraim better than the vintage of Abazar? So he's saying, look, aren't you guys now prospering? Don't you now have greater grapes and greater vineyards and able to go into other lands now more so? So why would you be upset with me? You have already gained because of what I did. What I did not cause you to lose. Neither did you have to suffer any man to fight or to be put in danger of dying in the battle. But you got the the benefit of it. And so look what he says in verse 3. God hath delivered unto your hands the princes of Midian, Orab and Zebah. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Could I have done anything better? I've already given you the rulers of Midian that have been now given to you. What was once ruling you, you now rule it. Boy, is that a great thing. Sometimes there are things in our life that rule us, that have control over us, that brings an appetite and a desire for things that rule us, make us do things that we probably would not do. When God reverses that and allows you to have the ability to rule over your own bodily, mental, social desires, you now become the controller under the leadings of God. That's a great victory. There are so many people that are bound by so many things. People that are bound by alcohol. People that are bound by drugs. People that are bound by sexual exploitations and various other things that bind the very spirit of the human nature. Well, when God can take that which is bound in a person, there's some people that are bound with greed. And imagine when that person becomes liberal with their finances. There's some people that are bound with envy, and imagine when that person becomes liberal in their praise and thankfulness for other people being blessed. All of these things are things that God can turn around and make better. And so he says, then their anger was abated towards him when he had said that. So now they're like, you know what, Gideon, you're right. I guess we should be more thankful than upset. See, sometimes you just want to be mad because somebody didn't do things the way you would have done it. But then, wait a minute, look at the outcome. Did they do a good thing? Did they do a good job? Did it get completed properly? Why can't you just praise them for doing a good job rather than chiding them for not doing it the way you would have done it? Those are a lot of times the things that we have to try to overcome. That's some of the ugly that's in our nature. And it's in a lot of us. All of us have some of that to some degree. Let's keep going. Verse 4. And Gideon came to Jordan and passed over, and he was there, he and the 300 men that were with him, those were the 300 men that he used to gain the what? The victory. Faint yet pursuing. Now, what does that mean? Faint. That means they're tired, they're sleepy, they're hungry. All right? They're weary, but pursuing, still going. Sometimes God will call you to do something that may tire you, make you weary, make you feel faint. But then the Spirit of God will tell you, don't quit now. Do not be weary in well-doing. You shall reap if you faint not. Don't give up. Don't quit. See, the guarantee of you losing is when you quit. When you stop, when you quit, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not fighting this no more. I'm tired of this fight. I'm tired of the struggle. Well, then you have already lost the battle. But in the midst of your tiredness, in the midst of your frustrations, in the midst of you feeling like I'm not feeling like I'm gaining anything, you still go. That's how victory's won. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you said something, don't give up. And sometimes you just feel like throwing up your hand, but you need to go to God and say, help me, because I can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I just can't. I need you to help me at this time. Sometimes we get tired of struggling with things in life, some of the things that hinder us and try to discourage us, and we just need to cry out to him and say, help us.
Exactly.
And I think we sometimes are afraid to say that, that I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't.
Right.
We need to acknowledge that we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our problem. We keep thinking we have to do it. Yes, we should do it, but we have to let him know that we can't do it, but with his help, we can do it.
Exactly. Yep. Weariness comes on us all. If you're going to walk in the ways of God, you're going to get faint. You're going to get tired because God will bring you to that. Because that's how you then begin to totally trust God. If you still think you got strength to do it, then you might still feel like, yeah, God was with me, but me and God did this. Well, no, you're going to get to the point where he's like, well, no, take me out the picture because I was done. I was spent. I had no more energy. God carried me through all of this experience. And when you get to that point, that's how you know that the Lord is on your side and he's giving you the victory. All right, rather than you doing it yourself. All right, let's look at verse 5. And he said unto the men of Succoth, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, king of Midian. So he's still going after the enemy. The enemy's running. All right, and so you see how the tide has changed. Gideon was hiding from Midian. Now the Midianite kings are hiding and running from Gideon. And he's pursuing them. But how is he pursuing them? He's pursuing them with 300 men, and they're all tired. They're all weary. They're feeling like they want to faint, but they're still pursuing. It says, for they be faint, and I am pursuing. So they're tired, but they're still going. Look at verse 6. And the princes of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thy hand? So he said, wait a minute. You're pursuing after these guys and you haven't captured them? You don't have them already by the hand? You don't have them already tied up, handcuffed, and you want us to give you some bread and y'all haven't actually finished the task? And look what happens. And they said, that we will give bread unto thine army. All right. And so they're basically saying, we're not going to give you any bread. And the reason why they're not, because they're like, why should we give you something we're not sure you can finish the task? If we give you bread and you don't win, then we're going to have Zebah and Zalmunna may come back and say, why did you help them? So they're trying to like play safe. We're going to stay neutral. We're not going to pick no sides here. Look at verse 7. And Gideon said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zalmunna unto my hand, then I will tear your flesh with thorns of the wilderness and with briars. So he's basically saying, when I come back, and he's saying, when God has delivered. So what Gideon is saying, whether you give me bread or not, God is still going to give me victory. But when I come back, I'm going to take some of these thorns and some of these briars, and I'm going to whip your behind. Basically, he's saying, like our old grandparents used to say, go out there and get me a switch. And I'm going to tear your tail up. And that's basically what Gideon is saying. When I come back, I'm going to take a switch, and I'm going to whip you for your disobedience. You should have fed us. You had bread, and you didn't want to give it to us. Well, when I come back, and we're going to get victory, and the victory is going to happen not because you gave us bread. The victory is going to happen because we're following God. Whether we're faint or not, we're still going to get the victory because the victory is not based on our strength. Gideon has learned that. The victory is based on what God. So we're going to get food that you don't know of. God's going to give us energy that we're going to receive not because we ate loaves of bread, but because we have the anointing of God. That's where our strength is going to come from. All right? Jesus said that when he sent the men out to go get some food when he was at the well with the woman there in it was the Jericho. What was the well was that? What well was that? But the woman at the well, you know what I'm talking about. And then when they came back, they saw that he was revived, and they said, did anyone give him anything to eat? And Jesus said unto them, I have food to eat of that you know not of. All right? And so that's important. And so he does this again. He gets a double portion of this whole thing. Look at verse 8. Then he went up thence to Penuel and spake unto them likewise. Same thing. We're tired. We're still pursuing. Give us something to eat. And look what it says. And spake unto them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered him. So they gave him the same answer. Look at verse 9. And he spake unto them, unto the men of Penuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I'm going to come back in peace because God's going to give me the victory. I will break down this tower. So he looked at them and said, see, y'all serving this God. Y'all worshiping this tower. Y'all have this image that y'all, well, when I come down, I'm going to tear that tower up. The thing that you guys are trusting in, instead of y'all trusting in the God that that's leading me, y'all trusting in this tower and y'all not trying to help me, I'm going to tear down the thing that you believe in and you trust in when I come back. And he's letting them know, I'm going to come back. All right, look at verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their hosts with them. So this is where they were hiding. About 15,000 men. All right, they got how many men? 15,000 men. How many men Gideon has? 300. So they are outnumbered vastly, but they're still running. One should chase 1,000. Two shall put 10,000 to flight.
10,000 to a flight. These
These devils are running, and that's nothing like it. When you praying and trusting and believing in God for the unusual, that's when devils run. See, when you trust in God for the thing you can see, I got to pay a bill. The bill is $400. I got $800 in the bank. I'm gonna pay the bill. Well, you thank God for that, but you ain't chasing no devils because you're walking by what? By what you can see. I can see them, but when you got a bill to pay and you're like, well, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm just gonna believe God for it. Now you're walking in what? In faith.
Faith.
Right? I don't see how I'm gonna be able to do this. I don't have the strength. I don't have the ability. I don't have the knowledge, but I'm gonna try to do it anyway. It ain't because you know what you're doing. You're walking by what? By faith. I think about the women that went to the tomb, and they were going to anoint the body of Jesus, and they got up early in the morning before the sunrise, and they're going out there, and while they're already walking, they're saying, we got a problem here. Who's going to roll away the stone? They didn't know how they were going to roll away the stone, but that didn't stop them from doing what? Going up there anyway. And matter of fact, not only who's going to roll away the stone, who's going to beat up the guards and remove the guards? We're women. How are we going to defeat the guards that are defending that are guarding the tomb? But they went up what? Anyway. And when they got there, God had already taken care of that. He's already took care of the guards, and God had already rolled away the stone. See, that's just walk. And when you do that kind of state, that kind of faith, the angels of God go before you, just like they went before that. Those women took care of the guards, took care of the stone. And so a lot of times we got to do that. Just go in the name of the Lord, and let's see how God works it out. Because now you're walking without any understanding of how you're going to do it. That's walking by faith, not by sight. Oftentimes we want the comfort level of understanding how it's going to be done. Versus, I don't know how it's going to be done. I guess I'm going to trust in God. And God comes in and does the miraculous stuff that we can't even understand. All right, so you got these 15,000 folks that are running from Gideon's 300 men. Okay? And it says, for there fell 120,000 that drew the sword. All right, so they already had lost 120,000 people. That 300 men, boy, has taken care of that. And so they're recognizing we done lost a lot of people, and there were 15,000 of us left. And they only got 300. But I'm still running from them because those are some bad 300 people right there. Them 300 folks can take care of business. And there's nothing like people that know how to work in the hand of God. People that know how to do spiritual battle, prayer, word study, intercession prayer, encouragement, enlightenment, education, trusting, faithing, believing in God. That's the fight. That's the battle that God wants to see you do. Can you get into that kind of fight? Can you walk by faith? Can you believe God? Can you lean on Him, depend on Him, trust on Him? Can you do that? And then allow God to give you wisdom and knowledge to know where to go. And God is letting Gideon know, just because they're running and they're leaving, don't you let them get away. Go after them. Look at verse 11. And Gideon went up by the way of them, and that dwelt in the tents on the east of Norbath and Jerbihah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. So they went to a place they thought they were good, and Gideon went up there and he began to just take them out one by one, bit by bit, tearing them down. He smote them, the Bible says. And it says, and when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them. They still running. These kings are like, I got to get out of here. These people are unstoppable. That's what God's folks are. I don't care what you do. God's folks are going to keep coming. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep trusting, keep believing. All right? Yeah, we get ups and downs. We get struck. And keeping in mind, how are these 300 men of God, of Gideon, fighting? They're fighting tired. They are weary. The Bible says they are faint, but yet pursuing. So you can be emotionally, I don't think I can do anymore, but I'm still going to trust God. I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. I'm going to keep on going and watch God give me the victory. All right. And so they pursued after them and took the two kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfort all the hosts. So they done finally caught them. There wasn't a good enough hiding place. The Lord helped Gideon and his men find them. We got you now. What's that old song? You thought you got away. We got you now. Remember that old song back in the day? I got you. And so they got him. 13. And Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from battle before the sun was up. So he got the victory throughout the night before the sun even rose. We're done. We got the victory. And now we're returning back. Verse 14. And caught a young man of Succoth, and inquired of him, and he described unto him the princes of Succoth, and the elders thereof, even 70 men. So he caught another young guy that was part of that was running around, and he said, I need you to tell me who are the leaders here. Let me know who are the people that were in authority. I want to know the people that were the decision makers. Give me their names, describe them to me. And this young man, he was singing like a jailbird. He was telling this, here they go. This is who they are. Let me tell you who they are. And Gideon got all the information. All right. See, the devil is big and bad till he gets caught. Then there was all of a sudden now he's just singing. He started telling on everybody. And that's the aspect of sometimes that when you look at individuals that seem to be fierce, well, wait till they get in trouble. They're not going to do like you do and trust and believe in God. They're going to start looking for ways that they can save their own skin. And he just started telling them. And so now Gideon got the information. I know exactly who I'm looking for. I know exactly who I need to deal with. Verse 15. And it says, and he came unto the men of Succoth and said, Behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom ye did upbraid me, saying, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thy hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that be weary. All right. So now he went back to these individuals and he says, I know who you guys are. I know who all your leaders are. And y'all were the ones that said, we're not going to help you because you have not already gotten the victory. Sometimes people don't want to join the winning team until the win is done. Mm-hmm. But why don't you join the team and help with the winning process? Some people don't want to do that. Let me see who's going to win first, then I'm going to join that side. They sit on the fence until they see. But sometimes sitting on the fence is guaranteed lost. You're not going to be on the side of the winner, and you're not going to be part of the winning side, because to sit on the fence means you lose no matter which side wins. Verse 16, and he took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. Now, it says he taught the men of Succoth with those briars and with all that with them switches. So what did he do? He beat them in public, gave them a thrashing. All right? Why? Because he told them, when I come back, y'all going to get whipped with these thorns and these briars and these stuff. Basically, I'm going to get a switch and it just whip your behind. And that was punishment for not trusting and believing that God was with them. Let's keep going. 17. And he beat down the tower of Peniel. So he told Peniel, when I come down, this tower that you guys are believing in, I'm going to tear it down. Because you should be believing in God, not this false idol. Your cultural belief in this tower is nothing. It doesn't give you any ability. And the fact that you were trusting in this tower and this tower did not instruct you to trust in God means it has no sense of understanding the way and the will of God. Tear it down. There are a lot of things in our life that need to be torn down. A lot of attitudes, a lot of thinking, a lot of philosophies that we've been trusting and believing in for a long time that we need to stop. We got to tear it down. All right? And he slew the men of the city. Verse 18. And when he, let me say this again. Then said he unto Zalba and the Zeba and Zalmunna, what manner of men they were that ye slew in Tabor? They answered and said, as thou, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. So now he's talking to these two captured kings and said, when you guys were starting the battle and y'all began to slay men before I got the victory, what kind of men would you slay? He said, and they answered, people that look just like you. They were Israelites, just like you. All right? They were from the tribe of Manasseh, just like you. All right? And look at verse 19. And he said, they were of my brethren. You slew my brethren. They were my kinfolks. They were part of my nation, part of my cultural heritage. Even the sons of my mother, naturally blood born, family members. So I'm taking. So he's basically saying, I'm taking it personally. Right? And that's what we are. We are all children of God. That's why we pray one for another. We take it personally when somebody says, I have been attacked by the enemy. And then we go and in prayer and intercessory to fight on the behalf of our brother because he's been attacked. My sister, because she's been attacked by the enemy. And that's why we pray one for another. That's why we use our gifts and talents to help one another. And it says, as the Lord liveth, if ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you. So he's letting them know, you're going to get what they got. You slayed them, the Lord's going to slay you. You're about to die. Look at verse 20. And he said unto Jetha, his firstborn, up and slay them. All right, so now he tells his son, go get a sword and slay them. I want you to kill them. Because he's trying to now allow his son to be the same mighty man of valor that he has become. Because Gideon recognizes when I was the age of my son, I was hiding. So he's now trying to give his son the proper trade to understand. Go on out there and let me show you how you take care of the enemy. Let me show you how you kill the devil. Get rid of him. All right, but let's keep reading. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Now, does that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. He's kind of just like how his dad was. Because his dad was afraid and hiding down there in the wine press threshing wheat when he should have been up on the hill. He was afraid. And now his own son is just like the old saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Now look at what Zeba and Zalmunna say. They're going to say the same thing to Gideon. They're about to die, but they're still going to insult Gideon. Look what they say. Look at 21. Then Zeba and Zalmunna said, rise thou and fall upon us. So he's telling Gideon, you rise up and fall on us. You kill us. And then he said, for as a man is, so is his strength. Now they just insulted him. Let me retranslate that. You're just the same kind of coward like your son is. Because the Bible says that the strength of a man is in his lineage, his children. So he said, that's your strength. Your son right there, that's your strength. You see what kind of coward he is? So are you, Gideon. You're a coward. So they're calling Gideon a coward. Gideon knows, yeah, I was a coward at one point. But brother, you can't call me a coward now. And so Gideon's going to basically say, well, let me show you what kind of coward I actually am. I used to be, yes, just like how my son is, afraid. But not now. Look what happens. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. All right. Talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, the ornaments, these golden or these precious items that were on the camel, Gideon is looking at these things and says, go grab those as well. Because they have some wealth, they have some prestige, they have some cultural significance. Let's go and grab that. Okay, you think no big deal. And all right, why let that stuff kind of just, be buried with the enemy? Don't bury them with all that gold and all that jewelry. Take the stuff off the camel's necks and let's take it for ourselves. All right, let's keep reading. Let's see what happens. Verse 22. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, rule thou over us, both thou and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of the Midianites. Now, once again, we're talking about the good and the bad. This is bad. This is bad because even though God has given the victory through Gideon, what are the people seeing? The people are still not seeing God. Who are they seeing? They're seeing Gideon.
Gideon.
They're looking at Gideon and go, Gideon, you rule over us. And that's not the message that God's trying to get you to see. When you get a great job and you're able to pay your bills, don't worship your job. Worship God. When you get a job. And thank God for the job, exactly. When you get a good doctor's report, don't thank God for the doctor or thank God for don't worship the doctor, I should say. You thank God for the doctor. Right? And so we often forget to always recognize that God works through these things. But they're not doing this. They're like, I want you, Gideon, to rule over us. God already said, I'm already ruling over you. But they don't want a God that they cannot see. They want to walk by sight. They do not have the concept of faith, and that's the problem that they have, and that's the same kind of problem that a lot of folks have today. And even we, you and me, we still have items in our life that we still want to see it. And God says, but don't you want to trust by faith? Faith is better than sight. But sometimes it's just, I'm too tired. I want to be able to see it. And God is saying, all right, I'll let you see it. But it would have been better if you had a trust by faith. You would have been better. All right. Now, this thing of giving us a king to rule over us is not going to go away. They're going to keep crying out for this. And eventually, God's going to give them what they want. The scripture says you will get the very desires of your heart. God is trying to discourage them. Don't do this. Don't go down this way. Don't pick this. Don't choose this. And they're going to keep crying for it. And eventually, they're going to get it. Sometimes you don't want, when God removes his protection, removes his wall of deflection from the things that you want that you should not even desire, you end up with the thing that you shouldn't have, and then it's never going to be something that you thought it would be. You're always going to be disappointed with it. All right? Look at verse 23. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you. Gideon knows. Like, I'm not doing that. Neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. That's the mindset that they should have that they don't have. Is God ruling? Does God take care of you? Is God watching over you? Is God protecting you? A lot of times we want to say that we can do it ourselves. You know, and we have all these different philosophies of of the things that we see in this world and in this culture that we put our confidence in, when ultimately we should be putting our confidence in God. All right? So you say, okay, well, Gideon made a good statement. All right, but let's keep reading. Gideon is just like you and me. He's got some good, he's got some bad, and he's got some ugly. Let's keep going. Verse 24. And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request. Now, I'm not going to rule over you, and I do not want to be your king. Your king should be God. But I do got a request. Since you think so highly of me, why don't you do this for me? Look what he says. He says, I would desire a request of you, that ye would give me every man the earring from his prey. So go to all of the people that have been slain, all of the people that we have captured, all right, and give me all of their earrings. They got earrings of gold. And it says, for they had golden earrings because they were Ishmaelites. So there was something about the Ishmaelite culture that prescribed for each one of them to have golden earrings. That was just part of their day. That's what one of the things they did. They had golden earrings. Now that those golden earrings that were in the ears of every one of those that were slain and every one of those that were captured would amount to a lot of wealth. Let's keep going. Let's keep reading. Verse 25. And they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment and did cast therein every man the earring of his prey. So they went and grabbed all the earrings, all the different things from all the different people, and brought them in and gathered them onto a spread out piece of cloth, and they began to put them all together. Look what it says in 26. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold. So they got 1,700 shekels of gold, a whole lot of gold. But not just that. They didn't only just grab the earrings. They also went and saw other valuable things. Besides ornaments and collars and purple raiments that were on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks. So once again, remember before when he said, give me the ornaments off of the camel. So now they're getting the ornaments from all of the camels, from all of the individuals that they got victory over. Okay? And so now they gathered all of this stuff together. Why? For what purpose? Well, it's wealth. It's going to give us the ability to have strength. All right? And it's going to give us the ability to have some security going into the future. Right? And all of these things they're looking at from this gold and these ornaments, and they're seeing the value of it. But our wealth, our security, and our dependence should never leave God, no matter what other things we may achieve. Unfortunately, that's not what happens here. Look at verse 27. And Gideon made an ephod thereof, and put it on in his city, even in the Ophram of all Israel, went through a whoring after it. So now he made this item. It kind of reminds me of when Aaron told the people to give me all of the gold, and he made the golden calf that they worshiped while Moses was up on the mountain receiving the commandments from God. This is very similar. They took all of this precious stuff and they produced something that everybody went, the Bible says, they went a whoring after it. And what does a whoring mean? That means you're giving allegiance to something that you should not, with the absence of giving the allegiance to that which you're supposed to. So when a man goes to be with a prostitute or a whore, instead of being with his wife, he's giving to this whore the things, the intimacy that he's supposed to give to his wife. And therefore it's called, being going out and a whoring or being unfaithful. And that's what happened. The confidence and the feeling of security and the feeling of being blessed and the feeling of having, financial substance and financial security, they were placing on this valuable golden ornament that they had created, rather than placing their philosophy of security on the fact that they were serving God. Oftentimes we do that as well. That is part of the ugly. I told you we were going to talk about some of the good, some of the bad, and some of the ugly. And this is not good. This is definitely going in the wrong direction. After the victory, after you've gotten the enemy to be subdued, now you're going to go and serve the wealth that God has given you rather than serving the God that has given you the wealth. All right, let's finish this up. 28. Thus the Midianites subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their head no more. The Midianites were done. So in spite of all of this that was going on, God still gave them the victory. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. So they had 40 years. Even though they were whoring after this ornament, God was still blessing them for the victory that they got from the work and the trust that Gideon had in God for 40 years. God is so merciful. He's so kind. And his loving kindness, his unquenchable care just goes over and covers a lot of circumstances that we should not be in. And God will still just allow us to be blessed in spite of ourselves. That's how good God really is. 29. And Jeroboam, son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. All right. And so that speaks about, Gideon. That was Gideon's other name. And Gideon had 70 sons. That means he had 70 children. All right. Well, why? Let's find out. Of his body begotten, for he had many wives. Okay, there it is, another issue. Why does Gideon have so many wives? Well, keeping in mind, this was the cultural aspect of that day. One of the things about the false worship that was there that will continue, and is even still alive today, was this false worship that is wrapped around infidelity and wrapped around sexual rituals. And so when they went into the temples of Baal and to the temples of Ashtaroth, one of the things that was very appeasing to those false worshiping aspects was that they did a lot of sexually gratifying rituals as a means of worship to these false gods. And so you were with many different women as part of your religious worship. Well, the children of Israel did not do that to a certain degree, although some of them did. There were times when they did succumb to that, and they went in and were doing all of those rituals. But the cultural mindset of being with so many different people is part of the day. So the men would be in the mindset of saying, I'm not going to have all of these temple prostitutes that are over there in Balaam worship, or these temple prostitutes that are over in the Ashtaroth false god. But I will have many women under the name of God, and I will marry them. Well, once again, that's not what God called us to do. When God put Adam to sleep, he took one rib from Adam and made who? Eve. He didn't take 8, 9 ribs from Adam and make all these different women. He only took one rib. All right? And so the concept of one man and one wife is one that is completely lost. It's lost in our day. In our day, you say, well, we don't have multiple wives. No, we just have multiple marriages. People that are married, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And some people that are not even married, they're just with common law well, I'm gonna be with this woman and then be with this man, and I switch from this man to this next guy, and that's part of our cultural day today. This is what we do. All right, and it goes on in verse 31. It says, and his concubine, so that was his wife, but not really a main wife. That's like a side wife, a concubine, that was in Shechem. She also bare him a son whose name was Abimelech. All right, we're going to see that name again. We'll see that popping up some more. Verse 32. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash his father, in Ophrah, in Azerites. All right, so he's buried in this town. Gideon is now dead. All right, he's moved on from life to eternal life. Verse 33. And it came to pass as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a whoring. You see the word. That's why the Bible uses that word. They went a whoring after what? Balaam. They went back to that aspect of the Balaam worship, which dealt with a lot of prostitutional temple priestesses, and that concept of giving to the false god Balaam what they were supposed to give to God. They were intimate with all of these false gods and not intimate with God. And they went a whoring after Balaam and made Baal Bezram their god. Sad. Do we learn, or do we keep doing the same thing over and over again? We seem like we don't learn. Verse 34. And the children of Israel remembered not the Lord their God, who had delivered them out of the hand of all their enemies on every side. I'm not giving God any credit for the victory. We don't remember what God. We got to try to remember what God has brought us through, because that will help us go through what we need to go through today. And when we get the victory over what we're going through today, that will give us the confidence to go through what we got to go through tomorrow. But they're not doing that. And that's why I say we see a lot of good in this chapter. Unfortunately, we see a lot of bad and a lot of ugly. All right? Our final verse here says, neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown unto Israel. They didn't have any respect historically over what Gideon was able to accomplish, even though Gideon was the one that freed them from the bondage of the Midianites. God frees us from the bondage of the devil, from the bondage of Satan. Satan goes about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Well, God comes as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, giving us ultimate victory. Can we continue to walk in the mindset that we have victory because it has already been delivered to us by God through Jesus? Or will we forget that and overlook it? All right. We got some more to talk about here. As I've stated, when we go through these book of Judges, we're going to see a lot of things that we can actually relate to in our day and our time today. And so we're going to stop here and pick up, if the Lord say the same, on next week and finish this kind of concept and see where is all of this going to take the children of Israel. All right. We're going to stop there. Any comments or questions on what we talked about today?